Fred, welcome, because the only way to figure out where the oil price goes from here is to analyze this concord or lack thereof between the U.S., Russia, and Saudi, I guess.
Yeah, it's a fascinating situation. You have three alpha males. So President Trump, Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, known as MBS, and President Putin. And they all have vastly different interests in this, but they all have an interest in the price going up. And so they need a way out of the situation. And it sounds as though President Trump has put himself in the middle of this as a moderator and has navigated a way forward. The real question is, what is the U.S. giving? Because President Putin believes it's a global situation and the U.S. has to give something as well. We can't compel our companies to do things in the way that the Saudis and the Russians can. One of the things we're hearing, but first of all, there is going to be an emergency OPEC Plus meeting on Monday. Others are going to be invited to it. Unclear whether the U.S. is going to be at that meeting, virtual meeting, or not. The other thing that's been talked about, and this is really just a rumor, we haven't been able to confirm this, that there may be a shutdown in the Gulf of Mexico of production there. That's 1.8 million barrels a day. That could come close to helping get to the 10. That's U.S. production. It wouldn't be shut down as a production cut, but would be shut down for coronavirus reasons. So one would be able to skirt the issue whether or not the U.S. is joining OPEC as a de facto OPEC member making production cuts.
Right. We're actually going to be speaking with the commissioner of the Texas Railroad Commission in a couple of minutes about this very issue, Fred. So my question for you in the meantime is, when you look at the headlines coming from Putin and from the energy minister Novak this morning, they really kind of talk about how it's Saudi Arabia's fault for negatively influencing the oil market, saying it's unfortunate that they announced plans to boost oil production and that they're trying to get rid of shale producers. So is the U.S. going to be able, if Saudi's not on board with this idea, this notion that the U.S. and Russia are negotiating a cut, then is there a deal?
Well, everyone has different interests in this, but I do think they're close to a deal. The question is, how big of a difference will this deal make? The estimate for April is that some 20 million barrels a day has come off global production of 100 million barrels a day. It could be as much as 30 million barrels a day. So if you take 10 million barrels a day off the market, what difference does that really make? And they would have had to come to take market share off anyway because of they're coming up against limited storage. What's really interesting here is the lobbying of the shale producers, which seems to have shifted President Trump. President Trump early on was of the view that these lower oil prices were a tax cut. That's what he called them for the U.S. consumer. I think two things have intervened. One of them is the loss of jobs and these shale producers who are lobbying him. And by the way, they've enlisted, not as a paid lobbyist, but they enlisted as an interested party, the former energy secretary, Rick Perry, who's close to the Saudis, but also former governor of Texas. So that's some of the pressure. And then the other part of the pressure is the election. Texas is, the oil producing states of the United States are not swing states by and large, but Texas could be. And the other thing that's interesting in this three-way scrum of Putin, MBS, and Trump is the other two do have an interest in Trump being reelected. They would not do well with a President Joe Biden, or as well as they've done with the President Trump.
So final question, Fred, as these executives gather at the White House, what should we expect out of that meeting?
I think that there is some optics to this. I think the president wants to be showing he's in charge, showing that he is moderating this global crisis in the interest of these companies. There may be some talk about production cuts that aren't really production cuts. I'm really interested to hear what the Texas commissioner is going to say to you, as they have about 40% of U.S. production, and would they be interested in joining the global cuts. So I think but I do think they're going to steer away from tariffs. As your reporter said, the majors do not want tariffs. There are real differences between the majors and the independents in the room, and he's going to have to navigate those.
All right. Fred, thanks. It's good to see you.
Thank you. Great to see you, Kelly.
Fred Kempe of the Atlanta.